Many retirees spend decades preparing financially for retirement, but far fewer spend enough time understanding how long-term care actually works in the United States. After years of working, paying taxes, raising families, and building savings, many people assume the healthcare system will automatically cover major care needs later in life. Unfortunately, many families discover during a medical crisis that long-term care coverage is far more limited and far more expensive than they expected. A serious illness, stroke, dementia diagnosis, or loss of mobility can quickly create financial pressure. In many parts of the country, nursing home care can cost well over $10,000 per month, and long-term stays may last several years. At the same time, Medicaid eligibility rules, asset protection laws, and estate recovery policies can be confusing for families who have never dealt with them before. This discussion is not about fear or sensational claims. It is about understanding how the system works so retirees and their families can make informed decisions before a crisis occurs. The goal is education, helping families better understand long-term care planning, Medicaid rules, common misconceptions, and why early preparation matters when it comes to protecting assets legally and responsibly. Long-term care remains one of the largest financial risks many retirees may face. People often spend years preparing for retirement income, investments, taxes, and Social Security decisions, but many do not prepare for the possibility of needing help with daily living activities later in life. Those needs may include assistance with bathing, dressing, eating, mobility, medication management, memory care, or ongoing supervision. When long-term custodial care becomes necessary, the costs can become extremely high. In many states in 2026, assisted living facilities may cost between $4,000 and $8,000 per month. Skilled nursing facilities may range from $9,000 to $15,000 monthly, depending on location and level of care. Specialized memory care can cost even more in some metropolitan areas. A multi-year stay can potentially consume a large portion of retirement savings. Many families are surprised by these costs because they assume Medicare will fully cover long-term nursing home care. In most situations, that is not the case. One of the most common areas of confusion involves the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Although the names sound similar, the programs serve different purposes. Medicare is primarily a health insurance program for people age 65 and older. It generally helps cover hospital care, doctor visits, surgeries, prescriptions, rehabilitation services, and limited skilled nursing care following a qualifying hospital stay. However, Medicare usually does not pay for indefinite long-term custodial nursing home care when a person mainly needs assistance with daily living activities rather than active medical rehabilitation. Medicare may temporarily cover rehabilitation services after hospitalization, but coverage is limited and depends on medical necessity and improvement standards. Once long-term assistance becomes primarily custodial in nature, Medicare coverage often becomes very limited. This is the point where many families begin facing serious financial challenges. Medicaid operates differently. Medicaid is a joint federal and state program that may help cover long-term nursing home care for eligible individuals. However, Medicaid is means-tested, meaning applicants must meet specific financial eligibility requirements involving income and assets. This creates challenges for many middle-class retirees who may own a home, retirement accounts, savings, or investments, but still could not realistically afford several years of nursing home expenses entirely out of pocket. A common situation unfolds when a parent experiences a stroke, worsening dementia, Parkinson's disease progression, severe mobility loss, or another major health decline. Families suddenly need to make urgent care decisions while also learning that Medicare coverage may be limited, long-term care insurance may not exist, nursing home care is extremely expensive, and Medicaid eligibility rules are highly complex. At the same time, families may learn that certain financial decisions made years earlier could affect eligibility. Asset transfers, gifts, and ownership changes sometimes create complications that families never anticipated. All of this often occurs during emotionally overwhelming circumstances when families are already coping with major health concerns. One of the most important concepts in Medicaid planning is the Medicaid look-back period. In most states, Medicaid agencies review financial transactions made during the previous 5 years before a long-term care Medicaid application is submitted. The purpose of the look-back period is to discourage people from simply transferring assets immediately before applying for Medicaid benefits. During this review, states may examine bank transfers, gifts, property transfers, large withdrawals, or sales of assets below market value. If certain transfers are determined to violate Medicaid rules, a penalty period may apply. During that penalty period, Medicaid coverage for long-term care may be delayed. The exact calculation depends on state-specific formulas and regulations. This is one reason timing becomes extremely important in long-term care planning. Many families unintentionally make mistakes because they receive incomplete advice or rely on generalized internet information that may not apply to their state or situation. For example, some parents add children to property deeds believing it will automatically protect the home. In reality, this can sometimes create tax complications, creditor exposure, probate issues, or Medicaid transfer concerns depending on state law and timing. Large financial gifts during retirement can also create unexpected issues. Helping children or grandchildren with weddings, tuition, or home purchases is common, but significant gifts made during the Medicaid look-back period may affect future eligibility calculations. Another common issue is waiting too long to begin planning. Many families only start researching Medicaid and long-term care rules after a serious medical event occurs. By then, planning options may be more limited because certain deadlines and look-back rules cannot be reversed. Another area that many retirees do not fully understand is Medicaid estate recovery. Under federal law, states are generally required to seek reimbursement for certain Medicaid expenses after a recipient's death. This process is commonly called the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. Depending on state law and how assets are titled or structured, states may attempt to recover costs from assets remaining in the deceased person's estate. Estate recovery rules vary significantly from one state to another. Some states focus mainly on probate assets, while others may have broader recovery authority. Because state laws differ so much, legal guidance tailored to a person's specific state is extremely important. Long-term care planning is heavily influenced by state law. Two families with similar finances may face very different outcomes depending on where they live. Medicaid asset limits, estate recovery procedures, home equity protections, trust rules, and spousal protections can all vary from state to state. That is why generalized advice found online can sometimes create serious problems if applied incorrectly. Proper planning should take into account the laws of the state where the individual resides. This is also why elder law attorneys often play an important role in long-term care planning. An elder law attorney focuses on areas such as Medicaid planning, estate planning, long-term care strategies, powers of attorney, guardianship issues, and trust structures. These professionals help families understand legal options before a crisis develops. Proper planning is important because poorly drafted documents or incorrect asset transfers can sometimes create unintended financial or legal consequences. Some families also explore tools such as Medicaid Asset Protection Trusts, sometimes called MAPTs. These are generally irrevocable trusts designed to help protect certain assets from future Medicaid spend-down requirements when created properly and early enough. However, these trusts are highly technical legal tools and are not appropriate for everyone. They involve important trade-offs involving control, flexibility, taxation, and timing. Assets transferred into certain irrevocable trusts may no longer be directly controlled by the original owner, and incorrect drafting may fail to achieve the intended result. Because state laws differ and tax consequences may apply, qualified legal guidance is essential before making decisions involving trusts or major asset transfers. One of the biggest lessons many families learn is that planning opportunities are usually greatest before serious health problems begin. When a person is healthy and mentally competent, more options are generally available. Once a major medical event occurs, choices often become more limited. That does not mean families are powerless during a crisis, but early preparation usually provides greater flexibility and more time to make thoughtful decisions. Even basic preparation can make a meaningful difference. Important steps may include updating wills, creating durable powers of attorney, preparing healthcare directives, reviewing beneficiary designations, discussing long-term care preferences, organizing financial records, and learning how Medicaid rules operate in the person's state. Long-term care planning is not only financial, it is also emotional. Adult children may struggle with caregiving stress, guilt, family disagreements, financial anxiety, and time pressure. Parents may fear losing independence, becoming a burden, running out of money, or losing dignity. Because these conversations can feel uncomfortable, many families avoid them entirely. But delaying the discussion rarely improves the situation. Families who communicate earlier often navigate future health crises more effectively. Financial education also matters. Many people spend decades learning how to earn and invest money, but very little time learning how late-life healthcare systems actually function. That knowledge gap can leave families unprepared during emergencies. Some people mistakenly believe Medicare covers indefinite nursing home care, that homes are always automatically protected, or that all states follow the same Medicaid rules. In reality, the system is far more complicated. Better education helps families ask better questions, avoid costly mistakes, reduce panic during emergencies, and make more informed decisions about long-term care planning. Regardless of income level, retirees may benefit from asking important questions such as, what would happen financially if I needed nursing home care for several years? Do I fully understand the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? Are my legal documents updated? Has my family discussed long-term care preferences? Have I spoken with a qualified elder law attorney in my state? Does long-term care insurance still make sense for my situation? Do I understand my state's estate recovery rules? Are my current asset ownership structures appropriate? These conversations may feel difficult, but avoiding them does not eliminate the risks. The American long-term care system is complex. It involves healthcare policy, state regulations, tax law, insurance systems, estate planning, and family caregiving realities. There are rarely perfect solutions, and every planning strategy involves trade-offs involving protection, control, flexibility, taxes, simplicity, and cost. The purpose of learning about these issues is not fear. The purpose is awareness. Families who understand the system earlier often make more informed decisions than families forced to learn everything during a medical emergency. Most retirees are not trying to exploit the system. They simply want to preserve dignity, protect a spouse, reduce financial hardship, maintain choices later in life, and possibly leave something behind for their children. Understanding Medicaid planning, long-term care costs, and estate recovery rules has become an important part of modern retirement preparation. However, every family situation is different. The right strategy for one household may not be appropriate for another depending on health conditions, finances, family dynamics, state law, and long-term goals. That is why education matters, and why personalized professional guidance can also be valuable. In many cases, families who begin learning about these issues earlier have more options available later. Understanding the rules before a crisis occurs can sometimes make a significant difference emotionally, financially, and practically for everyone involved. Golden Seniors Hub encourages viewers to use this information for educational purposes only. This content should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or financial advice. Medicaid laws vary by state and may change over time. Always consult a qualified elder law attorney or licensed professional regarding your individual situation.